First story. OP secretly reported her neglectful sister to Child Protective Services, CPS, due to her children living in deplorable conditions surrounded by animal waste and neglecting their education. Consequently, she has accused her only close friend of being behind the CPS report, assuming it came from her friend's anonymous account. The overwhelming sense of stress and guilt weighs heavily on OP. She feels guilty for making the call, but also regrets waiting so long to take action. Additionally, she contacted Animal Control, and they are scheduled to visit her sister's residence in a few hours. The situation is taking a toll on OP's academic life as the new college semester has just begun, leaving her unable to concentrate on her studies. The neglect suffered by her niece and nephews is severe. They are not attending school, and one of them, with diagnosed developmental delays, has hair so matted it's stuck to the scalp. Their living conditions are appalling, with the house filled with trash, urine, and feces due to the neglected animals. All the children share a single bedroom due to the overwhelming clutter. OP has exhausted every avenue to improve the situation, from attempting to clean up herself to hiring assistants and pleading with her sister, all to no avail. She has spent significant amounts of money trying to rectify the situation, but her sister refuses to accept help or seek psychiatric assistance. This behavior is starkly different from who her sister used to be, leaving OP feeling disoriented and unable to trust her sister's words. The school is considering legal action for educational neglect as the children are consistently absent, often out until dawn and sleeping until late afternoon. They lack social interaction and struggle with basic social skills. OP is both disgusted and saddened by the state of affairs. Her sister, once her closest confidant, now fills her with revulsion. Their parents have also reached a point of frustration and have withdrawn their support, having exhausted their own efforts and resources in trying to help her sister. Despite their involvement, they are not the ones who reported the situation to authorities. OP hopes they won't hold it against her for taking action, as she saw no other recourse. I have 2 kids of my own to take care of, and taking on my nibblings would completely disrupt the household. But if they get removed from her care, I'd rather they come to me while she gets help. Our grandmother just died, and now I feel even more guilty for calling because she was close to her and her mental health is already in the toilet. I feel so lost and alone in this. Her children's father, the biological father of only one child, but who raised the other child, died unexpectedly in 2020. He did everything for her. I cooked, cleaned, took care of the kids, school parenting, and hygiene, and took care of the kids in their in-home daycare. They weren't really together by the end of his life, as he was an alcoholic and he was removed from household legally after he started being investigated for child adultery. Her life is a mess, but losing the stability that he gave her absolutely rocked her. Things crumbled when he was removed from the home, and the responsibility was shifted to her. Then when he died, it made it a lot worse as she still loved him. Update. Since people have been asking to be brought along for the ride, I have heard absolutely nothing about animal control from my sister or from the animal control officer that I spoke to. He was going to stop on Monday morning, and it's now Wednesday afternoon. I'm not sure if maybe he did stop in and nobody told me, but there was really nothing to update there. I've also not heard anything about DCF or CPS. My sister's best friend has been keeping me updated on what's happening. She has also been trying to clean up her house and has been driving 2 hours to bring my nieces to school so that my sister doesn't need to. I do not agree with this, though I am glad that they are going to school. I told her friend that she needs to not bail her out because if she can't do these things without her, then we're not really helping her. I've been right where she is. She was basically me 6 months ago. Her best friend is not only driving 2 hours both ways to help my sister, but she has taken time off of work to clean her house. I don't think she can get very far on her own, but my niece somewhat has a bedroom floor now. She's also been sending me things to post on the market to sell, including a rabbit enclosure that I had no idea she had. That one mysteriously died as well. I'm told the kids have gone to school the last 3 days late because of my sister's friend. I fear she is just making the problem worse by doing it for her, but at the same time, the kids need to go. It's such a hard place to be. She told me that my sister is still sleeping, and it is currently 2 p.m. because she was door dashing all night. I don't know how she plans to keep this up. Thanks to everyone for the kind words and advice. It's been so nice and encouraging to read through it. You have no idea how much it helps. First update. 3 days later, my sister is very upset with me because I told our mother that her children aren't going to school even after the meeting she had with the school telling her she has until the 19th to clean up her act or they're taking her to court for educational neglect. My mother wasn't happy with her and called her and told her off, to which my sister told her to lose her number. She is still not speaking to me, but she will get over it. She probably won't get over the CPS thing though. I haven't heard anything from them or from animal control, and she hasn't said anything about it, so it's still a waiting game. The school made a plan with her to have the kids at school at 7:15 because she told them the problem is that the kids don't want to go and be watched when they walk in because she is constantly late bringing them to school and they're walking in midday, and every day this week they have been at least an hour and a half late despite her friend's best efforts. Her best friend has been keeping me updated on things, and she has been driving 2 hours each way in order to bring the kids to school. When she stayed the night, she slept in the garage because the smell of urine and feces was so intoxicating. Her best friend went back home last night to get some rest before she starts work again tomorrow. She took a week off of work for my sister. It's currently 9:30 a.m. and I haven't seen her location move from her house, so I know that her kids are probably not going to school today. She told me getting up wasn't the problem, but her best friend told me she's been staying up all night dashing and sleeping until 2:30 p.m. while she brings them to school. What is her plan now that her friend has gone back to her own life? Her best friend is where I was a year ago. She thinks she can fix her. She bought the kids new clothes for school because none of them fit, and she has attempted to clean her house. She spent 12 hours cleaning and has hardly made a dent. She found 2 huge dead rats in common areas that the dogs had been peeing on, probably to mask the smell. I am so effing disgusted. She told me her kids are not going anywhere and to stop rearranging my house for them, but she is not doing anything to make any changes for her kids. I want the kids here so badly.
Ita.
I have just called CPS again. I gave them all of the new information that I have from her best friend, as well as sent them pictures of the kids' bedrooms. There is a pellet gun on the floor in one of the pictures, and I'm sure they won't take kindly to that. I also told them about the moldy, unusable fridge, broken oven, caked urine and feces all over everything, and the huge dead rats that were found. I hope they get in there quickly. Another update. I called and spoke to the school. She did not get them to school and ignored all of their calls, texts, and emails. She didn't even bother to tell anybody that they weren't going. This is against their agreement and doesn't bode well for her. The front desk lady seemed frustrated as well and seemed very well informed of the situation. They've really given her every opportunity to get them to school. She is still giving me the cold shoulder. I texted her and asked if she needed me to bring the kids to school tomorrow and if I'd give them breakfast. Nothing. The principal is supposed to give me a call back at some point, and they will potentially start doing welfare checks with the police when they don't show up. I am one of the kids' emergency contacts, so they were more than happy to talk to me and seemed on the same page. I asked earlier this afternoon about doing one today, and it seemed like they might since I requested it. I have yet to hear anything, so I'm not sure if they did or not. I'm going to call and do the same thing tomorrow on my lunch break at school. I won't give up. Second update. I'm not sure if I should keep making new posts or add on to the ones I've already made. Someone let me know. I don't know how this works. I called and talked to the school for the 2nd day in a row. She did not get them to school yesterday or today, and she slept through all the phone calls from them. I watched her location and she got home at about 6:30 a.m. and it hasn't moved from there. I'm going to start calling my sister's best friend Jen. Jen called my sister from 7 to 9 this morning until one of my nieces answered the phone. They said they'd been trying to wake her up for an hour and she wouldn't get up to bring them to school. Jen says they brought the phone to my sister, and Jen told her to get her ARS up. My sister lied and told her she brought the kids to school yesterday, and she'd do it today. Spoiler alert, she didn't. Jen is upset that she's been lying to her, but I think she's always lied to her. She's just realizing it now. Well, fast forward a few hours, and I start getting notifications for every message that is being deleted by Jen incriminating my sister. Dozens of messages, including pictures. Luckily, I had most everything saved already at that point. I asked what she was doing, and she ignored me for a bit, and then I got a call from her. She's crying and upset and says, "What did you do?" I played completely dumb. Apparently, my sister called her, ripping and screaming, saying that CPS got involved and hung up on her. She thinks Jin is the one who called. I do feel pretty bad about that. I have no idea if they showed up or if they called, but it didn't sound good. She has an inspection coming up, but we are unsure of when. I wish I knew what went down. All I know is that they mentioned the things Jin had told only me, so it'll come back to me eventually. It doesn't sound like she let that on to my sister. If somebody showed up to her house, I'm sure she refused to let them in, which is an obvious red flag. Her porch looks terrible, and there's trash and feces all over outside, so I'm sure that was another rock in her sack. We have our grandmother's funeral tomorrow morning, and if she gets her ARS out of bed at 8:30 tomorrow morning, doubtful, it's going to be one awkward family reunion. Jin is also going.
I'm SHTTing bricks.
I just messaged her other close friend who also happens to be a social worker. She's helping me get in touch with their social worker. No, the friend hasn't seen the house in a year or two. Update added as an edit. She did not make the funeral. Jin drove for 2 hours to drag her out of the house, but she refused to go. Now Jen is cleaning up her house while my sister does absolutely nothing. I told her to just give it up, but she thinks she's doing what's best. The DCF inspection is bright and early Monday morning. Jen is doing what she can to hide the evidence. They're both more worried about figuring out who called than the kids' well-being. I'm beyond disgusted. Jen thinks she's being a good ride-or-die friend, but I do not see it that way. I wish I could never talk to either of them again, but my nibblings don't deserve to be isolated. Thanks for listening to my woes. Update added as an edit. My sister has her inspection tomorrow morning. I don't know what time, as she won't tell us. She's done nothing to help this situation. My guess is she will just not let them in, and they will have to get a warrant. If anyone has any insight on how that goes, please let me know. I also sent DCF a long email explaining everything about Jin and have offered my home and time to them should they need me. I'll make a more in-depth update after I find out what happens tomorrow. I'm hoping the social worker gives me a call and updates me. Third update. I don't even know where to begin. It feels like so much has happened yet nothing at all. My sister knows somebody called and is blaming Jin and isn't speaking to her. I feel slightly awful because now my sister is speaking to me again and talking SHD about Jin. I've been reading/directing her as best I can. The only reason she's even talking to me is because she wants to borrow my car. I wouldn't see it again, so I've been just saying it's at the shop, which isn't a lie, but I can pick it up anytime. I just haven't had the time with school and work, but I'm not telling her that. She only talks to us when she needs something, like picking up her vape juice and giving her money or a vehicle. I'm trying too hard for these kids, and I just feel like I'm getting nowhere besides poking the bear. For now, I'm saying let's make the best of it and get some help, but she's yet to make any effort. The only people that know I called are our dad, my partner, and her friend Kara, who is actually a DCF worker. She's been so helpful through all of this and trying to help me help the kids in a way that won't cause her to lose her job. And all of you. My sister did not go to the funeral as expected, and she has a meeting on Monday with the school to discuss the kids' truancy again. This was her deadline to start going before they took her to court. I've been calling the school every day, and they've not gone once since Jen stopped bringing on day 3 of their deal. It's been a few weeks now. They know my phone number now and greet me by name LOL. My sister managed to dodge her DCF worker 2 days in a row. Once she rescheduled, and then the worker rescheduled. The house still looks horrendous. I dropped off Operation Happiness gifts and food, and I couldn't even get past the front door. It was a dark, dingy, dirty, and stinky cave. She's still in denial and says Jen called DCF on me over a moldy zucchini. She's dead to me. Actually, she's just plain delusional. There's no way she can actually believe that. Not when I've seen her house and smelled them all. She even SHDs on Jen for her cat and kittens, and how at least there's not SHD and piss at her house. There is a lot. She just doesn't leave her bedroom. She's not put in a single gram of effort into cleaning her house, but she has spent lots of time trying to figure out who called on her, which is just disgusting. I've told her friend Kara everything, and she has been trying to talk to her, but my sister has been lying through her teeth to her, which is unhelpful because I've told her absolutely everything. She said she may have to write her own report based on the things I've told her and things she's noticed. She gave my information along to my sister's social worker and said to expect a phone call soon as it's being made a priority. My sister is going to be pissed off. I've been dropping hints to her about seeking treatment, and easing her into the thought of her kids coming to my house. She's still vehemently against it, and she says they are not leaving her house under any circumstances. Unfortunately, she does not have that choice, but I need her to comply with our plan once they do get taken. I have no idea how she's going to react, and I'm terrified. She is especially terrified for her children. She is not going to make this easy on them. And if she has to go to court, she will get a copy of the affidavit on it that will have my name and the exact report that I made. I'm not thrilled for that, but for now, I'm just denying it until I can't anymore. Thanks again for listening to my woes. Second story. My neglectful husband suddenly became intimate and got back into his shape after turning 40. I didn't understand why, but then he explained, "Hi, I'm new here. I created this account because something happened to my husband about a year ago, and I don't know what to make of it. My husband has always been a good man, and he's a wonderful father. He also has a great career and is very driven to succeed. But after the kids were born, his passion for me waned. He was once very affectionate and flirty, and he couldn't keep his hands off me. We had date nights and would take weekend trips filled with kissing, hand-holding, and a lot of sex. But after the kids, all of that began to fade, and it continued to the point that I felt like we were roommates. I kept myself in shape for him and initiated sex often. He would never turn me down, but he was lazy. It was basically get off quick and go to sleep. So after a while, I just stopped initiating. This continued for years, and I had just grown used to it. I still loved him. I had no desire to cheat or divorce. I just figured this is what happens after kids, and I'll just deal with it. Then about a year ago, he got a babysitter and asked me if I wanted to go away for the weekend with just the two of us. I was shocked but agreed, and the entire weekend he was affectionate, flirty, and just fun. He hadn't acted this way in years. He was a completely different guy, and that was included in the bedroom too. This may be TMI, but my husband hadn't performed oral sex on me in 10 years, and every time he had before, he was kind of terrible at it. But while we were away, he just did it without asking, and he was amazing at it. This new attitude continued when we got home, and a few months after that, I started to notice that he had lost weight. Shortly after that, he started to look more toned as well. He had gotten a dad bod, but now he looked better than when we got married. I won't lie, I had difficulty keeping my hands off him. He's basically become the perfect husband overnight. I don't know what happened. He says he just wanted to be a better husband, but there was no event that triggered it outside of turning 40. Could that be it? I've read that middle-aged men sometimes get into shape because they are looking to cheat, but that's not the case. He's never cheated or had any desire to do so. We have lifestyle 360 for the kids, and I see where he is. It's work and home. I also see all his texts since we share an iPad, so I'm kind of stumped. TLDR. My husband suddenly became a perfect husband, and I don't know why it. Thank you all for the comments. I will answer a few common questions. 1. I see no testosterone in the house unless he's taking it at work and not telling me. Then I don't think that's what it is. 2. How did he become so good at oral? He did tell me that before he didn't like it, but now he does. I could tell before he was grossed out by it, and that affected how I felt about it. So right there was a change. But that doesn't explain how the man has become downright intuitive with oral and sex in general. He has a sense of when to speed up, when to stay consistent, when I'm close, and how to get me there. I just don't know how that happened. That part didn't happen right away, but it didn't take long. 3. Like I said above, cheating really isn't possible. I always know where he is and has been for years. I can track him, and so can the kids. He goes to work and comes home, and when he leaves the house, it is to the store or his parents, and I can see that too. Also, wouldn't you get in shape before the affair, not after? It was over because I have been hyper-vigilant, and there's nothing. Relevant comments. Stardust 14444. It wasn't hard. I knew he wasn't cheating. Even if I didn't know where he was all the time, he really isn't the type to cheat. I tend to think most cheaters are narcissistic on some level, and that is the opposite of what he is. Cheating or looking to cheat was one of my fears, but no, as I mentioned in the post, there is really no possibility. I can see his texts, and we have lifestyle 360, so I know where he is, whether it's work or home. Plain Performance 2795. It sounds like you're living the good life, But the only question I have is, how did he suddenly get so good? Did he practice? Did he look up some tips? It's a little suspicious when I suspected my ex was cheating. She suddenly started doing home workouts and learning new tricks in bed. But I also learned how to do new stuff via tips and things and got pretty good at most things. So it could be that as well. He got better at SX by simply trying. Before it was basically pants off, pound, 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 and done. Now he actually takes his time and heats me up before entering me. He uses his mouth, he teases me, he's passionate now, where before he was just all business. And even when he does finally go inside me, he started using his hips and moving that thing around in there. I'm positive there was no cheating. Like I said, I can track him, and I see all his texts as they come in. There was just never an opportunity. He had to have done some research, though. Update. I wanted to give an update on my post from a few days ago since everyone who commented was so helpful. I talked to my husband and asked him if he was taking testosterone, as many of the commenters thought he was. He said no and was curious why I asked, so we talked a bit, and I really pressed him hard on what was going through his mind a year ago to make him change so much. And I was able to tease two things out of him. The first was an incident at work. It happened about 6 months before he made his transformation, and I knew about it at the time because he told me. He didn't make a really big deal about it and barely mentioned it after telling me, so I just forgot it even happened until he mentioned it. My husband is the VP of finance at a large private company, and 2 members of his staff were engaging in an affair. The woman involved in the affair was married and about my age, and her husband had started to call the office, so it became something he had to deal with since he was their boss. He told me at the time, but I guess this saga dragged on for some months, and when the woman in question began to open up to others in the office regarding the reason she had the affair, some of those reasons hit home for my husband. Her husband was behaving much like he was, so he said that wasn't going to be me and set out to fix it. The second thing I teased out of him was that he quit watching adultery. Now I do want to say that I don't care that he watched adultery. I do myself on occasion. But when he watched it and obviously finished himself afterward, it drained any desire he had for me. I guess he started when the kids were really young and I was just exhausted all the time, and he just kept it up because it was easy. He quit because to fix our marriage, he had to get that desire back for me, so he did it. So after this conversation, a lot of things make sense. I also understand why he didn't want to tell me. He didn't want me to think that the possibility that I could cheat had entered his mind, and the adultery is sort of self-explanatory. Relevant comments. Madam What expressed satisfaction with the fact that the two of you discussed the matter. Madam What also commended you for dismissing the assumptions made about your husband in the initial thread you posted. OP responded that it wasn't difficult to ignore the assumptions, as she was confident that her husband wasn't cheating. She maintained that despite not always knowing his whereabouts, she trusted that he wasn't the type to engage in infidelity. She shared her belief that most cheaters exhibit narcissistic traits, which her husband lacks entirely. Regarding whether her husband was aware of or concealed the affair among staff members, OP clarified that this was not the case. Her husband became aware of the situation after the fact, when the husband involved in the affair contacted HR and directly informed OP's husband. As these staff members report directly to him, he had to handle the situation to ensure the smooth functioning of his department and the completion of their tasks. OP expressed gratitude for watching the video and extended an invitation to explore similar stories. She encouraged viewers to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it with their friends.